He was the dog nobody wanted, a failed canine deemed uncontrollable, too impulsive, too stubborn for the police force. She was the girl the world had written off, paralyzed from the waist down after a tragic accident, barely able to leave her house, silenced by grief and fear. But fate has a strange way of putting broken souls together, so they can heal each other in ways no one else can. And when danger came knocking, this failed dog did something that made the whole town weep and changed her life forever. Before you decide who's worthless, you might want to hear this story first. Comment below where you're watching from. We want to hear your story too. The sun beat down on the rust-colored training yard of the Jefferson County Canine Academy, a facility known for shaping elite police dogs. And yet, one German shepherd stood off to the side, panting, distracted, tail low. His name was Shadow. He was strong, fast, smart, but he wouldn't follow orders. No matter how many times they yelled, "Stay!" he'd wander toward the fence, ears perked, eyes locked on the highway, as if waiting for someone who never came. Trainers grew frustrated. He'd pass obstacle courses, nail scent detection drills, but then chase a squirrel in the middle of a mock arrest, or bark during silent commands. Unreliable, they said. Too emotional. After 9 months and thousands of dollars in training, Shadow failed his final evaluation. The verdict was final. Washed out. He was stamped unsuitable for service and placed on a waiting list for rehoming. One trainer muttered, "Maybe he'll make a good family pet for someone with a fenced yard and low expectations." No one came. Days turned to weeks. His bark grew softer. His eyes lost some light. And then, one winter morning, the phone rang. 7-year-old Emily Lane sat at the window of a white farmhouse outside Havenbrook, watching snow fall softly across the fields. She hadn't gone outside in 83 days, not since the accident, not since the car crash that took her ability to walk. And her father, she used to run with the dogs in the field, chase dragonflies, climb trees taller than the roof. But now, her world was confined to a wheelchair and the quiet hum of her mother's worry. Her mother Grace tried everything: therapy, books, even a golden retriever named Max. But Emily had stopped speaking, stopped smiling. Max was sweet, but he was calm, docile. And Emily, she needed something more, something alive, something wild. Maybe what she needs isn't a dog who'll lie beside her, but one who'll fight for her, said Dr. Harper, the therapist. That's how Grace stumbled across an online listing. Canine shepherd available. Failed police training. Strong-willed. Needs special placement. It wasn't what she expected, but something, maybe mother's instinct, urged her to call. When Shadow arrived, he leapt from the transport van like a cannonball. Tongue flopping, eyes scanning, paws pounding the gravel. Emily flinched from the window. "He's big," she whispered. The first words her mother had heard in weeks. Grace smiled. "Yes, he is." Shadow sniffed the porch, pawed at the door, and then, without hesitation, ran up the wheelchair ramp. Emily froze. He was inches away now. Shadow sat, then slowly. He lowered his head into her lap. Her small hand trembled. Then as she touched him, Shadow didn't move. He just breathed deeply, eyes closed. And for the first time since the accident, Emily giggled. Not because he was obedient, but because he wasn't. Because he was like her. Different, too loud for the world, too full of life to be tamed. They didn't know it then, but that giggle was the first step towards something miraculous. The following weeks weren't easy. Shadow chewed 3 shoes, barked at the mailman, knocked over a vase, chasing a dust bunny. But he also followed Emily's chair everywhere. He slept by her bed. When she struggled to reach a book, he nudged it off the shelf. When her hands trembled from strain, he steadied her wrist with his snout. Grace noticed something else. Emily started speaking again, not to people at first, but to Shadow. "Good boy, Shadow. Stay, buddy, let's race." One snowy evening, Grace watched through the window as Emily tried to move her chair across the gravel drive. She was stuck. Before Grace could rush out, Shadow came bounding forward. He stood behind the chair and pushed. Wheel by wheel, he nudged her free. Emily didn't even look surprised. "I told you we're a team," she said, and Grace cried. Because this was no ordinary bond. Despite progress at home, school was another battle. Emily hated being stared at, hated the pity. Some kids teased her. One boy even barked behind her back when she rolled past. Shadow wasn't allowed inside, but he'd wait by the gate every morning, pacing like a soldier on duty. One day, Emily came home sobbing. "I want to quit," she told her mom. Shadow leapt into her lap, tail wagging furiously, whining. "He knows you're sad," Grace said gently. Emily wiped her tears. "Maybe he should come with me." Grace shook her head. "He's not certified." But that night, she made some calls. She found a program, Service Hope USA. They offered accelerated training for emotional support dogs, especially those with prior experience. The twist: the training had to be led by the owner, Emily. Her eyes lit up. She said 4 words: "I want to try." Training took months. Emily studied vocal cues, hand signals, behavior theory. Shadow, stubborn as ever, pushed limits. But when Emily commanded, he listened. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't yank leashes. She looked into his eyes. And he followed. At the final test, trainers watched closely as Emily guided him through crowded halls, loud noises, sudden distractions. He passed with flying colors, but it wasn't about the certificate. It was about what came next. Shadow now had access to her school, to the lunchroom, to her life. And that changed everything. The morning it happened, the school was hosting a safety drill. Emily sat in history class. Shadow lay under her desk, calm. Suddenly, the alarm blared, louder than usual. A planned drill had gone wrong. Real smoke. A wiring short in the cafeteria had sparked a fire. Students screamed, rushed to exits. But the elevator was down. Emily wheeled herself to the stairs. Alone, smoke thickened. She coughed, panicked. Then Shadow barked, not in fear, but command. He stood in front of her, nudged her hands, and did the unthinkable. He grabbed the safety belt of her chair in his jaws and pulled, one stair at a time. A child in a wheelchair, a dog who failed police school. Together, defying gravity. A teacher saw them halfway down. "Shadow," she cried. He didn't look back. They made it to the landing just before the flames reached the stairwell. The school was evacuated. Nobody forgot what they saw. News crews arrived within hours. A local station aired the footage from a hallway security cam. Shadow pulling Emily down the stairs as smoke billowed. The clip went viral. Failed Canine saves wheelchair girl. Donations poured into the school safety fund. Shadow was honored by the mayor. Emily was invited to speak at assemblies. Her voice, once silenced, now carried strength. When asked how she trained such a heroic dog, she just smiled. "I didn't train him," she said. "I just loved him." Months later, Emily wheeled into the same canine academy, where Shadow had been labeled a failure. This time, she was there to speak. And Shadow, proud tail high, sat beside her wearing a medal. She looked out at the new recruits. They said he was too wild, too emotional, too much. She paused. Sometimes what looks like disobedience is just heart. What looks like failure is just waiting for the right mission. The room stood silent. Then, applause. Long, loud, real. Today, Emily and Shadow still race through the fields behind their farmhouse. She rides in her chair. He runs beside her. Not as a service dog, not as a student, but as her best friend. The one who reminded her how to live, and for the people who ever doubted them. Shadow has a message. Sometimes the strongest heroes are the ones no one believed in. And sometimes the smallest hands can teach the wildest hearts to listen. Where are you watching from? Has a dog ever changed your life? Let us know in the comments. Tag someone who needs to hear this story.